Hello, I'm James Lancaster, Deputy Editor of Association Meetings International magazine. You join me at the headquarters of the Association of Surgeons Great Britain and Ireland for the latest in a series of interviews with high-profile association leaders. Today I'm joined by Professor Nicholas Gair, CEO of the association. Nick, how many events do you stage, and can you give me an idea of how many delegates attend?
That's an interesting question. One big conference, we have an annual International Surgical Congress, which a couple of years ago we had 1,700 people at. But during the year we have a year-long programme of activities which range from a small meeting for 35 people focused on a very big specific issue, or a consensus conference or training or event. So we have quite a varied programme. But in terms of the conference industry, if you like, it's our one big congress, which is the important thing.
What have been the big changes in the relationship between associations and venues and convention centres? How has the procurement process changed?
I think we've managed to begin to move out of a loop of complacency on both sides. I think there was a lot of complacency from associations. They just went back to the same venue and did the same thing, and in some cases unfurled the same banners that they'd used the last 15 years. And the convention centre always looked on us as sort of the poor relation of the industry. I think what's happened recently is that a lot of the commercial sector has disappeared. You know, there's no more product launches. Banks don't have the same big budgets for AGM, so that a lot of the industry has recognised that association business is long-term, it's sustainable, and in many cases actually largely recession-proof. I mean, we have to have a conference. Our members need to have CPD, so they've got to each year update their continuing professional development and come actually and have a conference. So there's a need, there's a carrot and a stick, but there's certainly been a changing dynamic.
Why do you think it's taken so long for that to change? It's pretty obvious, isn't it, that associations are a sure bet?
It's obvious from where I sit, but I guess if you're looking at it from an industry perspective, a lot of convention centres were full with, as I say, bank AGMs or product launches or media advertising, high-end, spend, and quite often going just the once. So there was a different procurement route to an association like mine, which has been having a congress for 100 years. So actually we were, I say, overlooked, and I think a lot of venues have probably suffered from that, because I certainly won't get back to one or two places because we weren't treated particularly well 10 years ago. It's as simple as that. It should be a partnership. Our conference isn't just about us. It's about a destination, it's about a host city, it's about a whole range of factors, a lot of which actually are intangible. You can't count them. You can't just count the footfall. It's how people feel about a place. And so I think that there's been a dynamic change there, which both sides need to recognise.
So do you hire a meeting planner or a PCO, or do you do everything in-house?
We do everything in-house. It's our conference, they're our members, they're our industry contacts. We manage a database of 10,500 surgeons, and we have 2,500 members of the association ourselves. So actually we're getting 50–60% of our members to our meeting. Well, if we got any more, you'd have to close the health service. But out of those members, I probably know a third by name, and I know another third by face. I have people that have been to our meeting for the last 27 years without break.
How actively involved are you in the meetings industry, if you can call it that? Do you attend trade shows now? Are you ever a hosted buyer?
That's a nice question, because actually that is beginning to happen, partly because of what we've just been talking about. I have a stink aversion to being sold. If I want to buy a car, I decide what car I'm going to buy, and then I go to the garage that sells it. I don't walk up and down the high street aimlessly looking and thinking, I'll buy a car today, and then somebody sells me. And I feel the same about the convention industry. I don't necessarily need to be sold to by somebody from a venue, because I've actually probably already made up my mind that we're going to a city. So what we need to do is work in partnership with people. It means I've got one point of contact, and the city is saying, we want you to come. I'm not being sold to. We've already done our decision making, we've already done our comparison, we've already looked at the venues we need for dinners and social functions, golf and all those other things, which are in the background to a conference, but they're just as important. If I'm going to have a professor of surgery coming from Australia to come to my meeting, he wants to come to a destination and have an event. If you're going to spend £4,000 or £5,000, you want to come and have a world-class meeting in a world-class venue, but then go off and enjoy yourself for a couple of days with your friends or your family. And what we're finding is that, having taken the decision a few years ago to book our conference venues 10, 12 years ahead of ourselves, I know surgeons dotted around the world who are saying, well, in 5 years' time, I'm going to come for a family holiday, I'm going to spend a month in the UK, I'll come to your meeting, and then I'm going off and renting a cottage in Scotland. So it's a win-win situation, but we all need to recognise that's what we're doing.
Nick Gair, thanks very much.
That's a pleasure.